Welcome to Millionaire Agents Secrets, uncovering the hidden gems to help you become the next $1 million agent. And here's your host, Milton Player.
Welcome to Millionaire Agents Secrets. We have with us today one of Miami's best brokers, Reza Parsiani. He has a business degree with honors. He is a top producer at Aria on the Bay, which is one of the best buildings in Miami. And he is multilingual. He speaks 4 different languages: Norwegian, Persian, English, and Swedish. How are you, John?
Doing well. Thank you for having me.
Pleasure. Thank you for coming on.
It's an absolute pleasure.
Oh, good. First thing, let's start with something quite interesting. What social group were you in at school, and how has that affected the moves that you've made in your career and your life?
Well, I was a bit of a techie when I was growing up. So, I went into an engineering field to begin with. So I was very logical, pragmatic, and that taught me, to be strategic, to be logical and organized. So all of those qualities, I guess I carried with me from that time.
Okay, wonderful. And you've been doing real estate now for 14 years, haven't you?
14 years, yes, indeed.
So how have you grown from the start to where you are now? Because you're a very high-end broker now and doing brilliantly.
Well, thank you. It's a blessing to be serving the community at the level that I am now. Obviously, there's always more to do. It's been quite a journey in the past 14 years. It's had its ups and downs and challenges, no doubt. But I believe for you to grow, you have to step outside of your comfort zone. And my real estate career has certainly done that to me. So.
Yeah, absolutely. So you mentioned hard times there. How do you overcome those hard times? Do you have any strategy that you use, or is it just your natural optimistic self?
Well, you have to be optimistic, right?
Yeah.
I think that's a natural quality for you to always have. And I think that links to faith and belief, whether it's in a higher power or whatever it is that serves you in this lifetime. You have to have, in my opinion, or I do, a belief in something greater than myself and a cause greater than myself. So that's what carries me through the challenges. I know that whatever challenge comes my way, it's there to serve me and not to destroy me. It's there to lift me up and not to put me down. So that's what gets me through with that positive attitude. And I always look for the lesson. I always look for the lesson in each of the challenge, no matter how horrible it's. And horrible is the meaning that we give it, right? So no matter what comes, I choose to give it a positive meaning rather than a negative one.
Yeah, I love that. Do you have a team around you? Do you have a personal assistant? Do you have buyer's agents? How are you structured?
I do. I do have an assistant, and I do have a team under me that I'm working with, that I'm basically building up to be top brokers as well. Because I believe if you're going to be a leader, the measure of a leader is by how many leaders you've created, right? So that to me is the true measure of what a leader is. So my goal is not to keep the people that I work with at the level they are now. And my goal is to raise them up to, or at least to be where they want to be, where their goals are. So.
No, that's great. I love it. And your area where you work, it's a beautiful area. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, Miami is a beautiful city. It's grown quite a bit. I've been here for the past 20 years. I grew up in Sweden and moved here 20 years ago. And I've seen the transformation of a true world city. I've seen what it was and what it is now. And because of my position now with one of the largest developer representatives in the state of Florida, with about $6 billion worth of pre-construction listings and about 15 buildings that we represent, from Fort Lauderdale all the way to downtown Miami and even the Gables, it puts me in a position to be able to see what, at least the tip of the iceberg of what is to come for the future of Miami. So it's very exciting to see. 20 years ago, when I had friends coming over and visiting me, and we could only, my options were pretty much, let's go to the nightclub, let's go to the beach, or let's go to the mall, to what it is today, where we have art, we have music, we have entertainment, we have Art Basel, we have so many different true cultural activities. We have amazing restaurants finally here as well. So it's a well-rounded true world city, and it's just beginning, and that's the exciting part.
And is it a safe city now?
Absolutely. I mean, I've been here for 20 years and I've been all around, and thank God, I think it's as safe as any other world city, if not safer.
Right.
But certainly, as far as safety is concerned, it's a community where I think the population here, generally, they care for each other. They're here to grow in their life. I think that's a commonality with people from Miami, because it's a true international city. 50% of the population, if not more here, are from outside of Miami. So it's a true and outside of the country even. So I would say it's a melting pot to the truest extent. Whereas before it used to be predominantly South American and maybe Canadian as well. Now we finally gotten the attention and the interest of the Asian market and the European market. So it rounds the population here perfectly.
Understood. Yeah, no, it sounds enticing. I'll have to make sure I come over.
Absolutely, you should.
Yeah. What about motivators? Who motivates you? Who's been your influences throughout your career?
I would say, the books that I've read, Napoleon Hill, Zig Ziglar, Tony Robbins, I think when you are, for me, I like books that help you get to know yourself, right? And it's not a book that tells you who you are. It's a book that asks you the right questions or presents you with the right scenarios where you ask yourself the questions that leads you to know yourself better. And those are the books that have served me very well. So those are the ones I would recommend to everyone. And I quite frequently do to my team. And I say, pretty much, the way I look at it is when you're reading a book, it took someone's life experience to create the book that you're reading most of the time. So you're basically narrowing down 20 years of someone's struggle and hard times and lessons and all of that into a 1 month period, where you've learning the experience of someone in someone's lifetime in 1 month. And if you do that 12 times a year, then, there you go. You've just, you have a great experience or a great, you can curve your learning curve to a great extent.
Yeah, absolutely. We were talking a couple of weeks ago about that, weren't we? And saying how for $20, $30, $15, sometimes you can get something that's probably better than a $10,000 seminar in some cases. So it's an amazing thing. And you can have audio books if you need to too. So
yeah, I mean, whatever serves you, right? Some people connect with audiobooks. Some people need to have that paper feeling. And some people are all for seminars and I've been to seminars, and there is something to be said about being submerged into the atmosphere that the seminar kind of creates for you. So it's kind of like reading about Hawaii and going to Hawaii and actually putting your feet in the sand and feeling how it is and being there. So to me, I love seminars because it really, it puts you in that environment that you can grow in.
Yeah, true. And I suppose you have to be focused then too, don't you? So if it's a full day seminar, you are actually giving 100% to that subject. So there's that advantage plus the networking. So yeah, I shouldn't put down seminars. They can be good. And I've had a lot of good ones.
What I believe is, a lot of times when we want to grow or we want to learn something new, we have different anchors in life, whether it be phone calls, text messages, families, friends, people that pull us in different directions at all times throughout the day. So for you to go to a seminar, you're kind of disconnecting from those anchors, at least for a short period of time, so that it's just you and what it is that you're kind of running towards, if you will, and learning about. So that disconnection from the outside world, if you will, allows you to truly absorb the material that you're wanting to absorb. So that's the benefit of a seminar.
Yeah, that's right. And if you have the right person running it and get some really good, deep information from them and then take action, that's the other key I see a lot of people don't do. They don't take the action. Well, they say it's like 1% of sometimes of the people that go spend the money and they feel like, 99% spend the money and feel like that's all they have to do. They forget about the part where you have to take the action.
Absolutely. And that's the most important thing. But, one brick at a time, that's the way I look at it.
Yeah. Oh, without a doubt. What success would you say you're most proud of, John?
Well, it's just been my personal growth, I think, into, like I said, into really getting to know my goals, into finding out what it is that I want out of this life, what makes me happy, and contributing to something greater than myself. You know, when I make my family happy, when I make my team happy, when I see that I've you know, thanks to me, someone comes to me and says, John, thanks to you, I've been able to do X, Y, Z, or I've been able to get closer to my goal or achieve my goal. That, I think, is what fuels me more than any amount of money could.
And you're an extremely hard worker and work long hours. So do you think that's the main difference between you and some of the other brokers out there?
I would say, I mean, that's the difference between any true achiever in this life and those that are just in a mediocre state, I would say. You know, we were talking earlier, and I pulled a 17-hour day yesterday. That, you know, and that is the case. You know, I believe in the philosophy that when you're sleeping, your competition is up, kind of, you know, planning how to get ahead. So I don't get much sleep, as you can imagine. No, but I do sleep quite well. But when I'm up, I do want to be productive. And I think that's a lot of agents kind of get into the real estate industry without the corporate background or without the business sense to say, you know, I want to have they have an image of the real estate industry where you can sit poolside and I'm on my own hours and I can do what I want when I want. Yeah, you can, but you just won't last very long in the industry. And then you have to, you know, go back to making somebody else's dreams come true. You know, within the real estate industry, you are truly your own boss. You decide how much you want to put into it. You decide, and that will determine how much you will get out of it and your level of success. So you can either be really good at giving it your all and persevering through that tough time that we all go through to plant the seeds, or you just don't, and then you're going to have to go off and work for someone else that says, okay, you will be here at 9:00, you will check out at 5 p.m. and you will do X, Y, Z for me so that I can get closer to my goals. You know, so those are the two ways that you can go. I choose the earlier version of that, as to where you're on your own boss and you basically set out your own schedule, but you have to be very businesslike. You know, I tell my team, you might not have someone to say, be here at 9:00, do X, Y, Z, and until 5, but you have to give yourself that schedule. You have to measure yourself every single day and correct yourself. And make sure first of all, you know where your goal is and that you're running there. You know, you're not running west looking for a sunrise, so to say.
Yeah, exactly. And if you do want that nice lifestyle, you have to do a lot of work beforehand. And as Thomas Edison, I think it was, that said, and I'm paraphrasing, if he had 6 hours to cut down a tree, he'd spend 5 sharpening the axe. And it's very much like that, isn't it? It's a mass amount of prep beforehand, setting yourself up to a certain stage. Then you can make a decision. Do you want to make it even bigger, or are you happy where you are? Do you want to add people to you, et cetera, et cetera? But it's the hard work first, and you can't avoid that, can you?
Absolutely. I mean, my philosophy is you have to give before you receive. Mm-hmm. And that's the other element where I feel a lot of people kind of get into the business thinking, okay, what's in it for me first? And, you know, let me get something before I give. And I think it's the other way around. You have to really contribute. You have to give of yourself. You have to be an asset to some cause or some company or someone, and plant the right seeds. And I always kind of compare it to, you know, somewhat of a farming, analogy, if you will, where you plant those seeds, you have to come back, water them, take care of them, make sure they get the adequate amount of sun and so forth in order to grow. Right? You don't plant the seed and say, you know what, tomorrow I'm going to be hungry, so I'm going to plant the seed, and tomorrow I want an apple tree where I can kind of feed off the apples. It doesn't happen that way.
No.
So it takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of patience. It takes a lot of faith that this tree that you just planted is going to actually grow to be what it is, so that down the line it will, you know, you can eat off of it. So that's the philosophy that I always go by.
No, I love it. It's great. I have a similar thing where I think if you're going to start a campfire, you can't just have the fire. First, you have to give it something. So you have to give it wood and fuel and, you know, all that sort of thing, and the flame. before it gives you warmth. And it's the same thing with everything in life, isn't it?
Absolutely.
So sorry, mate. So what routines do you have? Do you have a routine for your workday?
Well, because of the nature of my business, I do have a set routine, yes, but you can't be too rigid in that either. So, in other words, I know what I want to achieve throughout the day, and I have an idea from 9 to noon what it is that I'm going to do and who I'm going to meet. But there's always a wrench that gets thrown into the mix, if you will. There's always unexpected issues that come up, and when those things, do come up, you have a choice of how to be being upset at it and saying, why is this happening to me? Or just being prepared and saying, I know this is going to happen to me. And, there it is again. And let me just deal with that, right? Because we are in the real estate industry. We're problem solvers.
Yeah.
We're here to solve problems. We're here to deal with issues. So if you don't want problems, then you're in the wrong business. If there was no problems, there would be no way for us to get, to make an income, right? So throughout the day, when I set my schedule, I know what I want to achieve. I go through my appointments and daily activities, but I always know that it has to be flexible enough so that it doesn't throw me off and ruin my next meeting because the first one didn't work out the way I wanted it to.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you need quick recovery in this business. So how do you market yourself? Do you use social media to go down that path, or is it more referral, or do you do some advertising as well?
I do. I basically do all of the above. All social media channels. I utilize those. For me, those are more of a branding. It's not really you don't get to generate too much business from those. I believe in the philosophy of face to face. So, getting to know someone, going to different networking events, traveling around. I've traveled quite a bit this year, and it seems I'm always on a plane going somewhere. Building the networks and connecting with people face to face is something you cannot replace. You can be on social media, you can send the emails, you can make the calls, and you should. But that's not, I think that should be something, not a first priority. Your first priority, or my first priority at least, is to have as many face-to-face quality connections with people as I possibly can. Right. So.
Yeah, that makes sense. Do you use Anchor as a social media tool? Have you heard of that one?
I have not.
Yeah, check it out. Brilliant. It's where you do up to 2 minutes of voice recording and audio recording, but there's some amazing people out there with just brilliant stuff. So it's worth listening to for sure.
I will look it up.
Yeah. Let's say you're in a listing presentation, which of course there's numerous of those. And I realize a lot of yours is a development buildings.
Right.
What do you think sets you apart? Do you have anything you say or do, or any strategy that you give them that wows them, that you walk in thinking, once they hear this, I know they'll give me the business because they'll be able to see I'm the best for them? Anything like that?
Well, it's funny because it made me think of one of my apprentices that just came to me. She just came back from China, as a matter of fact, and she said, John, I've learned everything you've told me to learn. I know that I know how to do a presentation. I know how to talk to people and connect with people. I just have a hard time closing. How can I close? What's the secret to doing, to closing, basically? And I said, well, what's the square footage of the Beeline unit in RA on the Bay? And she looked to the right and she says, and I said, right there, just lost me. I'm a client, I'm out. That's the secret to, if you are at a listing presentation, or if you're doing anything really, knowing your product inside out is the key thing. Going in as an expert, knowledgeable in the material that you're supposed to be knowledgeable in is the key thing, right? So you can be a brand new agent. You're trying to break into an area. If you know, and if you walk into a listing presentation and that seller says, thank you for coming. I see that you're brand new, and we just had someone that was very knowledgeable, 12 years in the business, and they just made an appointment. They're going to be, we're going to interview them right after you. So what is it why should we give you the listing? And you come out and say, all right, well, I know your neighbor sold for this much, and I know down the street 6 months ago they sold because of this reason. And you show your knowledge of the neighborhood. You show that you've studied the community. You know what's happened there before. You know what is happening there right now with the competition, and you know what's coming in the future as far as community developments, whether it be improvements in the area or otherwise. That's how you set yourself apart. And they'll be like, wow, she's new, but she knows what she's talking about. And she's certainly taken the time to know our community. So she cares about us. Then they go to the experienced agent and they come in and they say, okay, well, thank you for coming in. Why should we give you the listing? And that, well, I think I'm great. I've had 14 years of experience and I've sold X amount of houses. And well, what about my neighbor? Oh, I don't know anything about that. Yeah. And what about, what's coming in the community? Oh, I'm not so sure. I'll get back to you. I'm sure you're the least experienced agent is going to get that business, right? So at that point, knowing your business and knowing your product is what counts, I think.
Yeah, that's an absolute gem. And it shows the enthusiasm for the younger person too. And anyone that's reasonably new in real estate should take a lot of that to heart, because that's some brilliant sort of information. And it's funny how the person that has been in it for a long time, they start getting a little bit lazy and, a little bit apathetic about things. So it's not hard to beat them if you come with that enthusiasm and that knowledge. So yeah, I think that's wonderful.
Absolutely. I mean, I don't know about different countries and how they do the licensing part and what information is required to be learned before you become a licensed real estate agent. But at least in Florida, I feel like a lot of the content that you learn is very valuable. No doubt about it. It's a content you have to know, but it doesn't set you up, or I feel prepare you quite for being successful in the business. In other words, you can learn all of that, and once you become licensed, you kind of look around and you say, okay, now how do I close the deal, or where do I find clients, or what do I do now? And I feel in that sense, you really have to. The first 6 months after you become a licensed agent, it has to be intelligence gathering. It has to be this. You have to go to as many classes as possible, even if it's 90% of it is a waste of time. If you come out with one thing that you learn that you didn't know before you went into that class, it's a gem. It's something worth your while. So that first 6 months, you have to prepare for that to be your learning. You're learning about how to become successful. Right. I feel a lot of agents kind of graduate and they come out and they go, okay, I'm ready for my first deal. And, not much is learned through that, through the time of becoming a licensed agent, of how to actually close your deal, how to deal with a contract, how to even fill out a contract, what responsibilities you might have in closing that. So I feel that's very important to prepare yourself for the first 6 months, to say for the first 6 months, I'm going to learn as much as possible about selling, about the attitude of the buyers in my market, about market knowledge, about what's happening in different communities, in different areas, what the price per square foot average is in different areas, who are the buyers that are coming in and what are their needs, all of those things.
Yeah, absolutely. And on top of that, there's a huge amount of personal development that you get through real estate and mindset and things like that. It's amazing what people learn about themselves in real estate. And it's funny how you can see the ones that couldn't give a damn about that sort of thing. And we call it commission breath, that they're walking around with commission breath. And it's so obvious too. And then they get desperate. And they're the ones that start cutting the fees. And then they end up not being in real estate anymore. It's like, thanks for that. See ya. Right. You have a funny story. Remember the one with the painting? Tell us about that.
So it's kind of an awkward situation, but when I was working with Sotheby's and we were focused exclusively on $2 million and up listings, we walked into I think it was a penthouse listing in the $15 to $20 million range. And obviously for that type of clientele, there's a certain amount of ego involved sometimes. So as you walk in, you kind of expect that. So you walk in through the door and the owner greets us, and welcomes us into the living room. And as soon as you make a turn into the living room, there's a huge painting, the size of pretty much almost the entire wall as you walk in, and it's a portrait of the owner, as naked as can be, with everything just out. And I took a look at that, and I think I actually took a step back at that point. Physically, it was too much for me to take on. But gracefully, I just kind of averted my attention and went on with the listing, and we got that listing. And it's a matter of, okay, how do you tell? I thought automatically, of course, we're going to get the listing, and as soon as we have the listing, we're going to start showing the property. That owner is going to take the painting down. Well, no, that was not the case. The painting was there to stay. So now it's a matter of calling the owner and saying, I'm so sorry, but this painting cannot be there when we're showing your property. And the owner was quite upset and advised that we would ask him such a thing and to take on that painting, and where am I going to put it? It's a huge painting. It's beautiful. And I said, no doubt about it, but we're bringing families into this into this home. And that's not going to be a good first impression for you. So some interesting things that we see in real estate.
Yeah, don't we ever. So it gave me the idea of actually getting a fake one done of me for the office and just put it at the back of the office. See what all the girls think. Be very well endowed, by the way, too, on that fake one.
You'll ask the artist for a little modification in some areas, I'm sure.
Yeah. So let's think about negotiation. Do you have any formula, strategy, system, any way where you negotiate that's maybe different to everyone else, or that you find is most successful for you? Any little secrets there?
What works for me, Milton, is basically I try to create a win-win scenario. Mm-hmm. And that it's not I don't believe in win-lose scenarios, and I don't believe in being in a situation when one party is super happy and the other party not so much. I don't like those scenarios, and I don't like it. Obviously, we all come across those scenarios, but I try to avoid that as much as possible, because at the end of the day, what you're doing is you're connecting two human beings in transacting with something that they care greatly about. Obviously, real estate is one of the most important and one of the most emotional and one of the biggest financial decisions of our lives here. So it's not something small at stake. So often I try to create a win-win situation so everybody walks away from that closing table. The buyer's happy, the seller's happy, and all the parties involved. And I think that's our job as realtors as well, because we're kind of the glue that holds together, so many different parts, whether it be you have to, follow up with a mortgage broker, the title company, the buyer, the seller, the inspector, the appraiser, all of these things that we have to kind of keep track of, if you will.
Yeah.
So I, that's what I go for. I really try to establish a win-win scenario in any situation I'm in. Try to see what values and what things each person, cares most about, and try to, accomplish and give them that as much as that as possible.
Yeah. Can you do prospecting in your area, like door knocking, that sort of thing? Is that pretty pointless in your?
No.
Yeah, that works there. Yeah.
Absolutely. When I was working with Sotheby's, as a matter of fact, and again, like I was saying, we were focused on the higher end luxury market. We were door knocking $20 million listings all the time, and we were actually getting a lot of those. Amazing. So door knocking, it works. I mean, again, it's a matter of it's that human contact, right? Now, 90% of the time, you're not going to have much luck, but the 10% that you do run into someone that's the owner, and that's they're either leaving or coming back, you do make an impact. They do remember you, and it works. It works better than a phone call. It works better than an email, a postcard. Yeah,
it can set you up, can't it, really, prospecting, if it's done correctly. A lot of people don't know how to do it, and they struggle, and they give up pretty quickly. It's quite amazing to see.
Well, it's a human connection, right? And that's what I kind of that's what, and I think the mindset with which you approach someone has to be, how can I help you, rather than, hey, I'm here to get something from you, and can you give it to me? So I think that's, that, and people can sense that a lot of times. So I think if you approach someone with, listen, I'm an expert in this field. I'm here to give you some value. I'm here to be service to you. I think people see that, and a lot of times, whether they need it or not, they're appreciative of it, and some will do business with you, and some won't, and that's where you go.
Absolutely, and really, it's the face-to-face contact that makes all the difference. So if you're not good at that, you've only really got two choices. One is to learn and become brilliant at it, or try and find something else, huh?
That's right.
Yeah. Let's say you could time travel, and you could go back 20 years or 14 years. What would you tell yourself?
What would I tell myself? I would tell myself to find a mentor earlier on. I think that's that's a key ingredient in anybody's career and anybody's life in general. If you have someone that you respect, that you look up to, that you want to be like, in whether it'll be in business or in they have an amazing wife and they've been happy together for so many years. Just having someone like that and just basically asking them, hey, what's your secret? What's your, secret to success, and learning from that mentor. I think that's invaluable, and that's what I would have done. But at the same time, I don't regret really anything in my life. I'm very grateful for the life that I've had. It's certainly been colorful through all the different countries and different places that I've been able to live. And I think that's what's helped me be able to connect to, I think, a diverse group of people from all different walks of life, whether they be, depending on, it doesn't matter if they're in a different financial situation, if they, low income or a multi-billionaire. It doesn't matter if that doesn't depend on their education level. I think I can connect to them because of my travels. And that's another thing that I recommend highly is, when you travel, you learn a lot about other people, but you learn more about yourself as well.
Yeah, without a doubt. And so you've lived in 4 countries, haven't you? So it would be Sweden, USA.
Well, I was born in Iran. I'm Persian originally. So moved from there to India for a short time, then to Singapore and Sweden, and then ended up in Miami, the US.
Wow. Wow. So there's some good life experience there, huh?
Yes, indeed.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So what would you say the best piece of advice you've ever received was?
Best piece of advice. I think it's do to others as you would like to have done to yourself, and treat others the way you like to be treated. I think that's something that's in my mind every time I deal with someone.
Yeah. That's very good. And what would you say is a personal habit that you believe contributes to your success?
A personal habit that contributes to my success. I think the hardworking part we mentioned, the integrity part we mentioned, as far as doing good by others and genuinely wanting to serve for the betterment of your client. I think that those are pretty pretty brilliant things.
That's fantastic. And can you just tell us a little bit about the Aria?
Absolutely. So Aria on the Bay is basically
shit. We just lost John there. So internet issues, what can you do? But I'll have to thank him personally a little bit later. But in the meantime, thank you very much, John, publicly for a brilliant interview. And there were plenty of gems there. So I think there's a lot you can listen back to many times. And he is a wonderful agent, John, and very well respected in Miami. So I have to get out there and see one of his buildings. And it'd be nice to buy one, wouldn't it? All right, I'll catch you later, and we'll see you next time. Don't forget to leave comments if you like what you hear. And in the show notes, we'll give you a transcription of the podcast. And remember, as I always say, it's always midnight. Goodbye. Ray, here's an alternative ending because he's going to record again next week. So maybe we could do this in 2 parts. So we could say this. Well, thank you, John. That was episode 1 of John Reza Parsiani. I don't start again. Well, that was episode 1 of John Reza Parsiani. To see the second part of this podcast, tune in next week. And thank you very much for listening to Millionaire Agents Secrets. And remember, it's always midnight. Goodbye.
Thank you for listening to Millionaire Agents Secrets. Want 5 times more listings? Go to www.miltonplayer.com for a free cheat sheet.